Well, I mean, you made a good point. We're kind of talking about the past, and we need to talk about what's coming next. And Central Asia is a huge part. We did an episode about this on China Uncensored, how uh, China is really undermining Russian efforts in Central Asia and like Kazakhstan, a lot of these kind of places. So, what is your take on that? What do we need to watch out for?
If you look at the Belt and Road, right, we got the Maritime Road, this straight line belt. Well, it goes right through Central Asia. So the Russians have their Eastern Economic Union, I think it's called. Then they've got their CSTO, the Central State Treaty Organization. These are long-term established things. But meantime, here comes this Belt Road with plenty of cash and influence that it seeks to divide these areas from the Russians. It's mostly economic, but I don't for a minute think that Putin appreciates this. And if he's going to go to war over Ukraine, getting too close to NATO, another area of former Russian sphere of influence, and like you guys are talking about, the Central Asia is even more tense and fraught. And so again, this is an area where Putin holds his nose, but I'm pretty sure he's got a plan to resolve this. I can talk a lot more about that, but here's what look at Charlie Wilson's War. One very entertaining movie, but to look at our strategy back then, it was pretty sound. Russians are overextended in Central Asia and Afghanistan in this case, and presents vulnerabilities. They're overextended in Pakistan and Afghanistan right now, and rather than our knee-jerk reaction to come help them, we should allow them and the Pakistanis to enjoy the bed they made because it's not going well. Meanwhile, if we help Pakistan, we put India on their back foot. Go ahead.
Well, so the main thing I'm getting from this is the idea that China and Russia are in some kind of alliance that will be able to trip up the U.S. or launch a successful invasion of Taiwan. It really is not there.
No. Only where it's convenient. You're not going to see Putin stick his neck out for his friend Xi Jinping when he gets bogged down in the Middle East, for instance, with this Iran-Riyadh thing. That's not going to go very well. I don't think you're going to see a lot of effort, political resources, whatever, extended by the Russians to bail Xi Jinping out. And look at the economy right now. I mean, we talk about Li Keqiang's death. But he was the lead economist. Of course, he's been sidelined. And so you can see what's happening to the economy. It was completely predictable. And, you can see the Beijing asking Moscow for some help on this. They ain't going to get it.
How would you characterize what's happening to the Chinese economy right now?
Truth. American business is finally realizing that, one, I can be arrested for no good reason or exit banned for no good reason because I didn't do something that the government wanted. As you know, there's no consequences for lying in that system. In fact, there's consequences for telling the truth, right? You just revealed a state secret, the fact that your bank, your business is insolvent and that you may have to declare bankruptcy. That's going to get you in trouble. There's no problem with rolling over bad loans or making up data that keeps American investors from buying, into you, Alibaba, Tencent, whatever you want to call it, lock in. So all that's happening now is that all those hens have come home to roost, and the facts, you just can't cover the facts up anymore. And you notice how when they're paying off, when they're resolving this debt through bankruptcy, it's the renminbi denominated investment that gets treated first, and then the overseas investment next. I mean, everybody knew this. It was just delusional that American businesses and Wall Street didn't act on that.
I remember just as the Evergrande thing was first happening a couple years ago, you still saw BlackRock and Fidelity going in and establishing mutual funds in China. It's okay, well, they're not going to service their dollar denominated debts. Why are you putting more money into the system?
Everyone was like, don't worry, the government will bail out Evergrande. Everything will be fine.
And they'll bail us out too, right? And Wall Street will say, well, we can make all the, bad investments we want because just like in 2008, they're going to ride to the rescue. Hopefully you'll do a episode on the, Wall Street's conflicted interests in finance in the PRC. Again, I'm out of my depth on that one. I don't really want to go there. But look, the truth is finally coming out. And, I spent a career in the military. I am as nonpartisan as you can get, even in this time. And I, give credit where credit's due. The idea of assertive transparency that the Biden administration has announced is very welcome. So instead of hiding, every time I would watch a Chinese fighter do something really dumb on the wing of a RC-135 or whatever, I would ask DC that, would you let me go demarche these guys about this so they don't kill, another aircrew or try to kill another aircrew like they did in Hainan 2001. And they would say, no, we don't want to hurt the relationship. Well, you got to hold them to account for this stuff. And if you embarrass them enough, they will tell the PLA to stop that stuff. 500 feet is a long way away to stay away from, between a intercepting fighter and an American reconnaissance aircraft operating in international airspace. 500 feet is a long way away. These guys are flying at maybe 10 or 10 feet or less, completely uncalled for. It's just harassment. And now this Biden government is taking them to task. And that's good. We didn't have a lot of those during my time. And I think there was a reason for that too.
What do you think that reason was?
They think they were scared of us.
Yeah, it is interesting to see the U.S. government come out and actually release information about this stuff. And
the Philippines are also really pushing that too.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was some kind of discussion.
I would hope so. Yeah, because this can't continue. Article 5 commitments with the Philippines, just one, giant Chinese Coast Guard ship sinks a Philippine boat, or ideally would be a combatant, but eventually we start to have Article 5 consultations, and that's the escalatory ladder, man. We're going up it. We need to message that to the PRC that, these things have consequences, and you need to get your maritime militia in the bag, because they are going to drag you into something you don't want. And I don't think they want that. I really don't think they can afford have a South China Sea problem going on right now. Taiwan Strait with the multiple centerline crossings and all that. There's way too much bubbling in their periphery to add to that. So again, I think a word to the wise would probably knock off the South China Sea antics.
So what you're saying is there's a risk that China could accidentally go to war with the Philippines and the U.S. before the Taiwan invasion happens, which basically screws their whole Taiwan plan.
Exactly. Sending 6 combatants to the Arabian Gulf because they've sort of taken a back seat on maintaining peace and stability, and now you're probably sponsoring Hamas in some way, either helping Iran or turning a blind eye. Is suddenly they're at a loss for energy. If things start to blow up in the Middle East, the Arabian Gulf becomes contested. They absolutely need to maintain peace and security in the Middle East, Arabian Gulf area. They need that energy far more than we do. We should acknowledge that. Invite them in. Come on, you guys, join in here. You can bear the cost of this security burden for the next 20 years, because frankly, we don't need it. That's what I would do.
And that is important for people to understand, that the U.S. essentially can be energy independent, but China does not have the ability to be energy independent. They rely on foreign imports of energy.
Do you remember 2 years? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask about the inviting them into the Arabian Gulf. I mean, because U.S. military ships provide a lot of the security in that area for the free flow of trade, oil coming through. If China would take on some of that burden or more of that burden, we had an expert on a couple weeks ago who was talking about, he felt it was dangerous because then it's essentially like when we talk about the South China Sea and all the trillions of dollars of trade that go through there, having China be in
they're like a gatekeeper,
position
right?
to be a gatekeeper. Is that a concern in the Arabian Gulf or not so much?
Again, let's look at our basic interests in the Middle East. It ain't 1974 anymore, man. We aren't sitting in gas lines. We don't have to. We definitely, if we got serious about energy independence and national interests, we would just start pumping again. And we're already an exporter of energy, and we could be energy independent. And so why don't we push that burden to the government that needs that energy the most by far? What do you think Gwadar port is all about? Why would they put a port in Pakistan in Gwadar? Because it's the closest route from the Arabian Gulf to a pipeline to start moving fuel into Western China, into Kashgar. So yes, they need that more than we do. I think they're laughing at us all the time going, I don't know why the Americans are still doing this, but we'll take it. This is a freebie. we are being pulled in multiple directions. We're going to have to make priority choices. And one of those choices is to shift some of that attention finally to the Indo-Pacific, which has been a bill payer all this time. So why not and guess what? Now suddenly they get sideways with Riyadh and Tehran and Moscow because, Moscow wants to keep the prices up, keep the volume down to keep their energy expensive as possible. I mean, there's so many conflicting interests that we are solving for the PRC that we shouldn't. And we've got to take a large strategic view of this by letting individual CENTCOM, EUCOM, PACOM folks drive those decisions. A DC level analysis needs to take place. And I'm sure that the lowest priority is going to be the Arabian Gulf.